Hello and good morning on this beautiful day. Thank you for joining us. I am here with Kate Hayward of Xero. A very good morning to you, Kate.
Good morning.
I hope you don't mind me saying you are kind of the new and improved Gary, aren't you? Of Xero, being the new Xero Managing Director of the UK. And everybody at ICB knows Gary Turner so well because he attended and spoke at so many bookkeeper summits. He came every single year, huge champion of bookkeepers. And we are just so delighted to be launching a campaign with you around Making Tax Digital, because there is so much noise around Making Tax Digital for income tax, and it is coming. It scares so many people, but bookkeepers are so enthused about it. But we want to make sure that bookkeepers get all the right information. So what do you think is the role for bookkeepers in Making Tax Digital, and why are you excited to be doing this?
I think this can be scary and there's going to be a lot of change. But I think when I think of bookkeepers, this is their heart. This is their heartland. This is what they do. And so actually, how do we make it an opportunity? So I think this could be a great growth engine for bookkeepers. We recently did some surveys, and there's about 65% of this segment of the market that don't have an accountant or bookkeeper today. And our recent survey said over 50% of those would probably turn to an accountant or bookkeeper. So we know there's going to be a whole wave of these businesses that are probably going to be a little bit scared that need your support. And I think bookkeepers are the place where they probably will come first. And bookkeepers, I hope, will open them with welcome arms, so to speak.
So really interesting point. At ICB, we keep talking about bookkeepers and how they're the key to MTD. It does rhyme, but also it is really true. But what kinds of clients are we seeing coming up? I mean, these 50% of these people that are going to be looking for a bookkeeper, say for the first time, is that the kind of client that bookkeepers want, do you think?
So I think yes, no, and maybe, I guess, is my answer. I think let's think about them as people. Every small business is so different. And I think that's always the challenge and the opportunity. I think there'll be some digitally savvy small businesses that are fine and actually want a bookkeeper because they want help doing it. I think there'll be some that are totally overwhelmed, don't know what to do. They're used to their paper box of receipts and their once a year engagement of doing their end of year return. And they're going to go through a heap of change. And I think there's a few things that I think about when we look at this. And the big thing is segmenting that client base and thinking about in that ways. And then how are you going to service them? How are you going to service them from an end-to-end perspective? And then how are you going to price? Because one thing that worries me is I know bookkeepers will want to help everyone. And it could also be quite damaging to the profitability of what you do. So I think that's one thing that we're really, really keen to talk about, is making sure that you price for value, and also make the tough decision that you encourage the behaviours that you need from those small businesses that maybe have never engaged in this type of work before.
And of course, because actually, if you're already servicing clients, you're doing good bookkeeping for them, you're definitely at least doing quarterly bookkeeping. So doing something like those quarterly updates for Making Tax Digital income tax is going to be very much business as usual. But I think it's not the kind of thing you should be just doing for free, just because you know that the data is accurate already.
Exactly. And I think it's valuable and there is value in it. And I think this is the bit that if you listen to the more scaremongering, it's a negative thing. But let's actually think about what we're trying to do. You're trying to, from the small business perspective, get them to understand their numbers. I think one thing we do now about this segment is they don't have access to the big tools, the big education that maybe bigger companies do. But that financial literacy is just as important for them, being on top of their numbers, understanding their ups and downs, their cash flow forecasting. And I think the type of bookkeeping that we do, so invoices and payments, all of it helps cash flow. So it's a good thing. And I think from the bookkeeping side, doing more regular bookkeeping, the one thing I always hear from bookkeepers is they have such a brilliant relationship with their small businesses because they're in the numbers, they understand the numbers. And one thing we know and one trend we're hearing all the time, that deepening client relationships and providing more insights is what everyone wants. So it should be a win-win if we get it right on both sides.
I always think about Will Farnell, who I know loves Xero as much as most bookkeepers do. But he wrote that book, The Digital Firm, and really it was about bookkeeping and championing the value of bookkeeping, and how even if you're an accountant or an accounting firm, you should be using bookkeeping because it just gives you so many touch points with your clients. So very much that kind of, the message that all bookkeepers understand, that value piece. But Will Farnell also said this sort of quite scary stat about how many people are using Xero, but not actually using a lot of the features like the bank feeds. Is that true?
We actually, I think it was this week or last week, we regularly do a state of the industry report, and we did it again. And so these stats blow my mind every time. So only 40% use bank feeds, 33% use payment tools, and 31% use data capture tools like HubDoc, Snap and Capture. So
wow. And that's all Xero users?
Xero users.
Wow. And so, then if you're not even using any software.
Exactly. And I think that's the bit of, again, when I think of processes and I think of end-to-end and utilization to make this efficient for everyone, how do you keep on that digitization process of using the value within products, but also for yourself and the small business? So bank feeds is a really interesting one. When I heard this stat, we often do roadshows and we do events, and I love being out with customers. And I spoke to a lot of bookkeepers, and they said small businesses are scared. They think that you can go into their bank and do something. So there's a whole education piece here, which will be specific, really, really needed for this segment of understanding what the software can and can't do. And I think that's the other piece about the trust of how secure is the software, how known is it, how trusted, how much data security, what are those principles and those policies around that I think will be an interesting but really important message that we need to get out.
Because it is a fear. There's a lot of fear. I mean, I think for some of us, we think, well, this is a complete no-brainer. Everyone should be using digital tools. They should have their bookkeeping done regularly because we all understand the value of it. But there are people out there that won't even have connect to the bank feeds because they don't like that level of kind of transparency or sort of giving their data away. So
I agreed. And I think the big thing about this segment that I always say, a lot of these won't have a difference between a business bank account and a personal bank account.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think they're the types of nudges, and I talk about habit stacking. What are those daily nudges that we need to get this audience into doing to make sure that bookkeeping becomes their daily habit, not something that they're doing at month end, at year end, at quarter end, whenever, everything.
I'd love to know. Thank you. Lisa said that is so surprising about the stats you were sharing there. I'd love to know, anybody watching, if you've got clients that are still not kind of digital savvy, that you're really kind of having to kind of drag along on this journey. Because at ICB, we've always said that bookkeepers have this amazing ability to help digital adoption among small business clients, because you yourselves have adopted technology in a way that just far outstrips the whole accounting profession more generally. And I was saying to Kate earlier, I think really, Xero has really helped in this sort of the current huge community, successful professional community of bookkeepers, because you guys sort of came of age at the same time as Xero came of age, and you use this technology to run the kind of businesses that you want. And I think that's why you're so good at also kind of sharing all of those wins with clients and bringing them along on the journey with you. But I was saying 78% of our members are women, and I think a lot of that is because tools like Xero have enabled them to have these wonderful, flexible businesses that they can run around the rest of their life, and they can run their businesses from home if they want to. But Lisa's saying that, yes, you've got some clients that still have the paperwork and they're not scanning things. So how many people are using scanning tools? That seems, pre-accounting stuff seems like, again, such a no-brainer.
31%, so data capture tools. So they just don't think about it. And I think this is where, think of the generational types. And I think that's the big thing. They're not all the same, all of these small businesses. And I love the way that you're talking about how do we bring in cohorts and education of different customers. And I think that's the one thing that, what's your education plan for each of them, for the key jobs that you want to be done? We call them aha moments or golden moments. And I think that's really interesting for bookkeepers. So I just need them to do this and this. Then I need them to do this and this. Then I need them to do this and this. And so you get the end point. But yeah, use of software is something that I think we could all strive to be better at.
Absolutely. And I think it's also something that accountants might need the help of bookkeepers with. There's certainly been a lot of talk among certain kind of online communities of what we see as that kind of once a year paper-based accounting practice that's enabled these kind of once a year paper-based clients to function for decades. But actually, I think that is potentially changing. Do you think that maybe that's going to be a thing of the past now? It perhaps has to be.
I think it has to be. And I think what we're hearing from our accounting practices that we work with, they're almost going in two ways or three ways. Some are digital first accounting practices that love bookkeepers, understand the benefit of bookkeepers, either bring it in-house or work with bookkeepers, or as we talk about this do it together model, where actually we think it is small businesses, bookkeepers and accountants. That's the flywheel for me, that's the gold. There are other accounting practices that are maybe less digitally savvy, have always done it this way. And I think the fear and the upheaval, some are saying we're not going to service this segment. It's not for us. We don't want to change. We don't want to do it. Again, opportunity, I think, for bookkeepers and for others. And then I think there's a hybrid that just don't know at the moment, and they're still trying to figure it out.
And that's okay. If that's you watching this, it's okay to still be figuring it out. We do have time. We just don't have a lot of time. But, we really want to get the message out there to accountants that are perhaps struggling with this and just thinking this is another headache coming from HMRC. I'm not interested. Well, actually, bookkeepers are really good at getting clients to take the action that they need in order to get the data in, the records up to date. And really, I think quite often bookkeepers are quite open-minded. There are people in the chat saying, I am getting envelopes of information here. Obviously, that is going to have to change a bit, isn't it? Because it all has to be digital records going forward. Are there any kind of cool things coming out of Xero that you might like to share with us that might help?
I think that might help. I think we actually have an MTD for Toolkit. So if you're a Xero partner, go onto Xero Central, and we've just launched Toolkit. It might also be in your inbox. And it has lots and lots of practical things that you can do to help. I'll run you through a few. So those that aren't Xero partners, you can have a look. But we genuinely believe this isn't just about the product. This is about the process, the people, and the product and the platform that go with it. And why is that important? Because this could be a segment of the market that we start to service and it's not profitable for you. So please think about how you're going to do it end to end to make sure that you are achieving your business goals as much as anything else. So the first few tips: segment your client base. We know that MTD for income tax is going to be in tranches. Are you going to do them all in one go, or are you going to do them in the tranches that's going to happen? We've already talked about, are they software savvy or are they not? Do they like working with you? What's the ease of doing business? So I am an accountant, and we used to have, I'm not going to say where we did this, I had a platinum, bronze, silver, gold tiering for my clients of how easy they are of doing business. And I think it really helped to work out how you're going to service them all. This links to the pricing and service model. We're a big believer that this is doing it together. I think this is where the bookkeepers come into doing this, and they're so good at having deep client relationships with small businesses, nudging them into doing the right habits. And I think going back to that shoebox example, what's going to be your process? What's going to be your education to actually move them along? How are you going to support them? In that MTD toolkit that I talked about, we've got email templates that you can send to them. We've got education webinars. We're actually doing training with accountants and bookkeepers and small businesses together, so that together you can teach each other how you want to use the software and how you want to do your process. And then we have software so MTD for income tax will be available obviously in Xero. It will be available on all of our business edition SKUs. And we've just launched Xero Simple to the accountant and bookkeeping community this week. So this was £7. It's called £7. It's called Xero Simple, and it's predominantly for the sole traders that are very, very simple, and the landlords to service this market at the right price point. And it has, importantly, HubDoc, which is your snap and capture. It has bank feeds, it has invoicing, and it does all the good bookkeeping for that. So that's something that we're really excited about. But that's just, as I say, one part of the puzzle. It's preparing your clients and making sure that everything is ready along with the education. So there's also lots of webinars that we're doing. I think the next one's on the 22nd of May. So there's lots of support because, like I say, it's the education, it's getting ready that I think is the most important thing for bookkeepers, small businesses, everyone in the profession right now.
You're absolutely right. Because at the end of the day, it's relationships, isn't it? It's, the clients are not there to use the software necessarily. They just fall in love with their bookkeepers, and hopefully they will do what you tell them. You just need to make sure you tell them the right thing.
Exactly. And the software's easy, that they're not overwhelmed. Because the thing that I love, my favorite thing is when I hear from bookkeepers and then I hear from the small business that they're like, I'm not scared anymore. It just makes sense. I get it. And I think that's always what we strive at Xero to be. It's friendly and it's usable.
And looking at that sort of that nice triangle of the software and the accountant and that's not a triangle anymore because I've added in the software, but just this collaboration between the business and their agents, and this fact that now we have multi-agent access for Making Tax Digital, which is something that really was born in the bookkeeping community, and we fought and fought and fought for it, and it has now been released. So what it really means is bookkeepers can come along and do those quarterly updates. You don't have to have a tax qualification. You don't have to be an accountant, but you can actually work alongside an accountant or a tax qualified bookkeeper who will do the year end. So that really gives you a lot of flexibility, and presumably for your clients, it's going to give them a lot of reassurance, because then they don't have to make any massive changes. But what I'm quite interested also is in the sort of general, what's the flow of progress here? I know that when we go to Accountex in 2 weeks' time, we will hear from some accountants who will come along and say, bookkeepers are going to be out of a job soon. And we will have to, that's part of what we do at Accountex. We will be educating those accountants. But what do you think is happening? Are there any kind of shifts that you're seeing in terms of the profession and the actual work that people are going to be doing on a day-to-day basis?
I think it always makes me laugh when you hear messages like that. I think, and I don't know, I was at a digital accountancy show, and one of the things is like, AI will not replace accountants and bookkeepers, but it will change what you do. And so very simply, how I think about this is you have data that goes to information, goes to insights, that goes to advice and action. That first bit of data to information, at the moment, it is more manual, it is more bookkeepers. I do think that will change as we get things like, imagine a world where we have an AI bank rec that you don't have to go in and click through it, that it's done and it's based on confidence levels, or that the data flow coming in is much more seamless and it happens in a different way. So I think that will continue to automate. But bookkeepers have been part of that journey where automation has happened. I mean, there's probably many bookkeepers that have gone from, I remember doing my qualifications and it was all paper-based and it was in my ledger, and that's different. It's now no one believed that it would be in a ledger, and bookkeepers have been fine with that. So that transition will happen, I just think, at a greater speed. So I think it's the higher order thinking skills that become more paramount much more quickly. And so I think that's the bit that, again, going back to bookkeepers, they've got deep client relationships. And often, I think the bookkeepers know just as much about a business as an accountant. And so it's all about making sure that you're on top of the technology, you're driving efficiency, you're keeping up to date with the processes and using technology in a way that streamlines what you're doing. And then so you can take a step back and add more value work. Like we talk about small businesses doing habit stacking, it's the same for bookkeepers. How can they have a habit of giving more advice or giving more opinions or going deeper into the data to pick up trends more easily? Because actually they'll have more time versus all of the data entry that maybe they painstakingly sometimes make sure is perfectly accurate, which is needed. So that's my vision of where things are going.
I don't know if you saw, there was this cool video. It was like a TikTok, and someone was using ChatGPT, which has now got this amazing image generation capabilities, and they were creating receipts. Did you see this? And you just kind of go, oh, well, construction worker, they've gone to tool station or whatever, create me a receipt. It's got to come up to £426, inclusive of VAT. And it will create this receipt for you. And then you can say, actually, can you make it look a bit more crumpled? And it's incredibly kind of unsettling, I guess. And somebody sent this to me and they said, well, what does ICB think about this? And I said, well, to be honest, I think this is all, there's no change here. Ultimately, this is all just about know your client. And that's what bookkeepers do so well, because you're not just taking any old receipt, you're looking for those bank transactions. And even if the bank, the bank reconciliation itself is automated, these things are going to be pulled out. And what I love about bookkeepers, they will sit there and they go, well, actually, I know that you're a painter decorator and you don't have a boat making business. So I don't care if you bought paint for the boat. It doesn't count. They're really watching those things.
Yeah, and I know that you told me you were on a family trip that weekend. So why is that? Like, they just know, and that's the deep client relationship that they can join the dots. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Because I think that's, all about the trust. Your clients trust you. They don't actually, they love Xero, but they don't probably understand it as well as you do, hopefully. So that kind of trust piece is really important. And we haven't yet figured out a way to make sure that AI has all of our amazing values and ethics mind that all bookkeepers do. So that's so important, and that's just not going to go away. But I was saying earlier as well, wasn't I, that I know that we've got some accountants that are once a year paper-based accountants who are kind of struggling with making tax digital and don't know where they kind of see themselves in the future. But what I always notice is that Xero accountants tend to be a little bit more clued up somehow about the value of bookkeeping and how it's important. If they're not doing their own in-house bookkeeping, they are working with great bookkeepers. And I can't tell you the number of Xero accountants that I've met that said, oh yeah, I always use ICB bookkeepers. But how do we sort of get the message out there that bookkeepers really are the key to making tax digital? You can add more people into your practice itself, or you can outsource, you can co-firm. How can we get that message out there about the value of great bookkeepers?
So there's 2 points here. I think we speak about it a lot. And I think, how do we speak about it in kind of accounting speak? How I'm talking about the end-to-end process of making tax digital, we're also talking to that about accountants, but we're going to that next level of, okay, let's break it down. What are the jobs of making tax digital for income tax? In that MTD toolkit, we talk about this, and they're bookkeeping jobs, because you have to do the bookkeeping jobs before you can do the quarterly submissions and before you can do the end of year filing. And we talk about the model of doing it together, and we'll continue to talk about that of, is it you? Is it the small business? Is it the bookkeeper? Or is it all three? And interestingly, in our research we've just done, Xero users do those jobs, those bookkeeping jobs, more with either clients or small businesses. So we now have the data that if you're on Xero, actually they're doing those jobs more with other people. So I think, again, it's taking those stats and saying, okay, why? It's because it's more efficient. It's because you can save time. It's because it's more profitable for everyone. So we will continue to talk about that. And then I think it's bookkeepers. How do you service and how do you talk about your value? Are you branding yourself in the right way? In your local community, have you actually gone out and spoken to accountants? Have you got affiliate relationships? Are you partnering? So I think there's many ways that we can do it from bottom up and top down. I think, like you say, having multi-agent now through MTD with HMRC is a great tick to saying, actually, this is really, really valuable for bookkeepers. So are you promoting that? Are you talking about that? There's lots and lots of ways, but it's a great push actually to think about how we package up that message even better and more loudly.
And again, we're kind of building in your kind of do it together kind of phrase of, actually, not one of us is responsible for this. We're all going to do it together. And there's many ways to get that message heard. And you can do it directly through your clients as well. Make sure that they understand what you're going to do for them with making tax digital, because time is a ticking. Hello, Kirsty. I can't believe Kirsty St. John has come in and mentioned her QuickBooks recertification. But good to hear that you finally joined us. Of course, Mihal's in the chat as well. Really interesting. Is it, do you think that when we go to Accountex this year, I know at Accountex we're going to be launching a guide as well for bookkeepers specifically about how to make your making tax digital journey successful. But are we going to see Xero at Accountex as well?
We will see Xero at Accountex. I'll be there day one, and maybe some of day two. We'll have our stand there, and we'll have lots of people there that can help you with making tax digital or Xero more broadly.
That would be fantastic, because I think that idea of having Xero simple, having something specific that you can help your sole trader clients with, is really great, and also your landlords, because quite often that the money, people just think about the money, don't they? And think, oh, it's an extra cost, it's more hassle, I don't want to do it. So that's really helpful. What is the kind of size of the opportunity here in terms of sole traders who aren't yet using software? You said before it's about 50% of all clients, all businesses aren't using any software at all.
Yeah, so it's about 2.4. So it's over 1 million people that aren't using software today that will start using software. So yeah, on your just a little tip, when I'm talking about end-to-end, thinking about the end-to-end process, there are a number of small businesses that will have a business but might also be an accidental landlord, just make sure when you're looking through your software how that's going to show up and how you're going to do that, because sometimes it's causing a little bit of confusion. But for Xero, for example, you'll be able to do that in one subscription with tracking categories. So there's little bits of detail like that is worth checking how you're going to use software end to end, from data capture, bookkeeping, quarterly submission and end of year. Really break it down. So I think that will help as well.
That's big news. That's really exciting. Does that apply also if you've got more than one property as a landlord?
Oh, now you're going to technical question. I'll come back to you, Amy. But we actually have, again, in the toolkit, there's so many scenarios of if I'm this type of landlord or this type of landlord, I have this and this. So we've got a whole page that basically shows all the different scenarios of what you can use and how. That's
really helpful. And I'm glad Kirsty's come back and said, well, I'm just submitting a self-assessment on Xero tax and how it's really great. So that's
amazing. Good to hear.
But, what about sort of rallying cry before we leave on joining the public beta? Do you think that's worthwhile for bookkeepers to get involved with that?
I think any testing is great to get involved with. I think we are HMRC registered, so you can do that through Xero. My one piece is remember that this is testing and HMRC are building. So just because you're on the testing phase or you sign up doesn't mean that you'll be automatically eligible to get through it. But I think, again, the beta is only the submission part, remember. There's the whole other pre-process bit that you should just be testing on your own. And so, yes, it is worth signing up. Get as much information, get as much learning as you can from HMRC. But again, my favorite word, do it end to end. So you're testing the whole process.
And that's one of the great things, about Xero is that you can do the entire thing, your pre-accounting, your accounting and your tax at the end as well.
Exactly.
Very exciting. And we're always just so delighted to work with Xero because our members have voted you guys the #1 bookkeeping software every year for at least a decade. I can't see it ending anytime soon, but we know that you really understand the value of good bookkeeping. I see it in all the firms that use Xero as well, so that's really exciting. I see it in all of your comms. Yes, of course, we know you're trying to tell the clients that it's really easy, but I think that always works for bookkeepers too, because bookkeepers get to kind of swoop in there and pick up the pieces if it does go wrong. So it's really great to be working with you guys, and we know that bookkeepers are really the key to making tax digital. But just finally, a little bit about you. You've got such an important job at Xero. What's coming up for you over the next year, other than making tax digital?
So I think it is an important year for us Xero in the UK. The UK is a real growth market for Xero. We see lots and lots of opportunity here. So we have our strategy that we're halfway through, or a third of the way through. And so it's incredible because we have had a lot of focus in the UK, both from our product teams and also our other support team. So I'm really excited for the product that you'll see being shipped over the next 12 months and how we bring that to bookkeepers and accountants and our small businesses. So yes, lots to do, lots more opportunity. And yeah, I can't wait to do it with all of our customers.
That's so exciting to hear. Great. Well, good luck to you. Thank you ever so much for today. We've learned so much, and I know that we all feel very reassured that Xero's got our back, and we're going to go straight away and download this toolkit because it sounds fabulous. Thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you, Amy. It was great to chat.
Bye-bye. Have a great day, everybody. Bye. We are still live, I think. I was like, oh, we're not live anymore. We're still here for